Good morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Michael here with Deeper States Mind and Wellness. I'd like to welcome you to the program this morning. It's 9:02 in the morning, so I'm hoping that all of you guys have a cup of coffee in hand, or whatever you need to drink this morning. I'm really excited. I have a guest this morning that we're going to be talking to, and hopefully, as we go along, maybe I can convince her to take a couple of you guys and bring you on a stage, and we can talk about maybe have a reading for you, right? So, anyway, I've known Mary for a long, long time. We've known each other, oh my gosh, I think at least 20 years, something like that. She probably has better my memory than I do. But, it's, I just want to kind of introduce her, talk to her. We're going to find out more about what psychic abilities are and what mediumship is and what the difference is maybe and how do people even start to do this? How do you know you're psychic? How do you know that you started doing mediumship? How do you know? Is it just something that comes into your body, into your mind, into your spirit, into your soul? So I'm excited and I'm very proud to have Mary here because not only is she a friend of mine, she's an excellent psychic and a medium. I met her. Well, we've known each other for many, many years through another association, and Mary actually was doing live events where she was doing gallery readings, and we'll have her explain a little bit about what a gallery reading is. She is honored to be a board member of the Past Life Research Institute, which is really, really cool. Maybe she can give us a little bit of information about that. She shares her psychic and her mediumship gifts through gallery readings, and that's how I met her, which is really awesome. She will talk. I'll let her explain what a gallery reading is. It's kind of cool. Things just kind of come to her. It's pretty interesting. Um, she is a certified and former member of the Best American Psychics, which was part of the Psychic Hotline, I believe. If you remember, she'll clarify that for us. But I know she's been doing readings for people over in Manhattan, I believe in Manhattan Beach. And that has now, I believe, with COVID and stuff, has kind of slowed down a little bit and come to an end, I believe, or it may be starting again for her. She's got a lot of information, a lot of things going on, so I can't wait to talk to her. She's a creator of Soul Scouting. It's a retrieval system that is used, and we'll have her explain a little bit about that. She co-authored a book, which I was part of that co-authoring book, which is kind of cool. It was put together. It was called Your Soaring Phoenix, and it's so funny because I don't remember that. I don't remember that I had even put that in, that I had co-authored that book until somebody brings it up, just because it's just part of my past, right? So anyway, I'm going to bring Mary up here on stage, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in. We're gonna be able to see your comments as you guys start to pop in and out. And if you want to leave a comment, if you can see the streaming on the bottom where it says show your comments, go to streamyard.com/Facebook. If you're all going to leave a comment or you'd like to even come on stage, it's going to be very important to actually go in and you set that up. You click on that and just open up. If you're on a computer, open up another screen and just go in there, and it's very easy. Just go and you click on it, and that's going to give basically Facebook permission for StreamYard to have permission to bring you up on stage. So without further ado, I'd like to bring Mary here on board, and if we can go ahead and start talking to her and find out a little bit more. Hey, Mary. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fabulous. How are you?
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you so much. I thank you so much for being here this morning. And I have so many questions for you, and I'm sure the audience has so many questions for you. People that watch the replay are going to have so many questions for you. So at the end, we'll figure out how we can get a hold of you for those people as well. But so tell me a little bit about yourself, Mary. Just to help me understand a little bit. What I mean, I'm assuming that you don't just wake up one morning and you're having these thoughts or these processes, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I've got this intuitive thing happening to me inside of my mind or something. How do you know when you are what you are? I mean, that's kind of a loaded question, huh?
Yeah, it's a really good question because I spent my whole life not knowing. Um, I'm a feeler, I'm empathic, and I pick up people's feelings. And so if somebody was feeling uncomfortable, I just assumed they were uncomfortable with me,
Hmm.
you know. I do remember being very little, like about 4 or 5 years old, and saying stuff to my mom, and she would look at me and say, "That's a lie. Don't ever say that again." So it was pretty much kind of like, just don't say anything. Don't say anything, right? And then I just did my best to shut everything down for the longest time. And then when I was taking my first hypnosis class, I was suddenly surrounded by people that were open to that kind of thing. It always fascinated me. I remember even being in grammar school and checking out books on parapsychology and things like that. So
Okay.
there was always, this fascination with it. And and then we would, play these little psychic games, and somebody'd say, "You're really psychic," and I'm like, "No, I'm not." So another friend that I met in hypnosis class, Dr. Carol Francis, who I co-authored the book with.
Sure.
She started kind of pushing me. And Carol, she's such a scientist. She's a full-on scientist. So I figured, well, if she thinks this might be something, maybe I should take a look. And so we played with all that. And then one day I don't know what happened. I walked into a metaphysical bookstore and they were looking for readers, and I applied for the job.
Very cool. Awesome.
It
Awesome.
was
I know. I know that
yeah,
you do. I know you have an MS in holistic health science.
yeah.
Explain that a little bit to us. What is
Oh my gosh, I got very,
health
very
science?
ill in my early 30s. Chronic fatigue syndrome, Epstein-Barr virus, and the doctors really couldn't do anything for me. They wanted to put me on antidepressants, and I didn't want to do that. And so a friend turned me on to her chiropractor, and so basically, it was taken care of. It. Look at it this way: I'd gone 7 months without hardly being able to get out of bed.
Sure.
And suddenly in 2 months, I was ready to work full time. So just with the chiropractic help, changing the diet, taking certain herbs, things like that. And to me, it was a miracle. So I decided I wanted to learn more about it. And I found a school, unfortunately no longer exists, but I got a very thorough education, got my master's, and just about finishing my doctorate, but then the school closed. So but it didn't translate well into the real world because I
Hmm.
wasn't a registered dietitian. I did
Sure.
teach for a while at Kaiser, so that was pretty cool. And then I was looking for something to add to it that was a little more mainstream, and I got a flyer in the mail for a hypnotherapy class. And I'm like, it just struck me, and I'm like, this is so weird. And I remember telling Spirit, okay, if I'm supposed to do this, show me where the money's coming from. The very next day, my income tax refund showed up.
Very awesome. That's cool. That's so cool. Power of manifestation, right?
Yeah. So in my work now, it's not unusual for Spirit to give me nutritional lifestyle guidance for my clients. They'll say, man, she needs some iron, or whatever. And it's funny because they'll show me pictures of different foods
Hmm.
that the person's body is looking for. And then
Okay.
I do my best to translate that into nutrients and, things like that. So,
Let's wheel back around. So, do you remember how old you were when you started getting those processes with your mother? I mean, would you just blurt things out that you saw coming in your mind, or is it picture form? How do you operate?
I would just know stuff. Like I would just know stuff, and then it would be confirmed. You know, um, my mom was sort of a kind of a wild woman, in those days, and um, there was things I shouldn't have known.
Sure.
And so, and then after, it wasn't really pictures. Like I get more feelings and things like that. So um, it was just, I had no place to put it. I didn't understand it. And even when I was studying parapsychology, the tests that they had, they were all visual. So I wasn't doing very well on those tests.
Okay.
So I thought I wasn't psychic, right? Well, I've come to, find out over the years that that's real good if you're a visual psychic.
Sure.
Those tests are wonderful. Um, so it was kind of hard, but once I was around people that were accepting of it and encouraged me, I opened the door, and I was really, really surprised. I was really surprised at what I knew, or how, not so much what I know, like the information coming in.
So it's like an intuitiveness. It's like a women's intuition, I guess, right?
Well, it's more than that. Men get it too. It's the same for men, is what spirits told me. And you'll see
Mantition.
that in the documentary I'm in. Um, uh, it was funny because they asked, I was being filmed for this documentary, and they asked me that question about women's intuition, and I started to answer, and spirit just stopped me and said,
Okay.
nope. We just put more attention on women. It's easier for women. It's more
Sure.
accepting. Society's more accepting of it.
And I think some of that has to do with upbringing, right? I mean, we're told as
Yeah.
men that you have to be a man. I mean, you can't have those sensitive emotions. You can't have those feelings. You can't have
Or if you have
those
them, you don't talk about them.
absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
you can say, well, I spirit really pointed out soldiers, in the war, and how, in that moment, the only thing they have to rely on is their senses, their
Mhm.
psychic senses, whatever comes up for them. So, but they don't talk about it. Well, I just had a feeling, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So, yeah, here's what spirit told me. Everybody has the ability. Everybody's born with it. It's a sixth sense. We all have it. We all own it. But it's just like having legs. People with legs can run. Some people naturally run faster than others. But with practice, people can build up their muscles and become pretty fast runner, right?
Sure. And then some never get off the couch, right?
Yeah, yeah.
so so
Like,
and I think it's interesting because I think some people, I mean, I think we all have it, right? We all have this ability, am I right?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
And it's pretty cool. And some people like to separate instinct, intuition, psychic. I don't think it's really all that separate. I think it's different words to explain um, the different ways the phenomena manifests, right?
Hmm. Sure.
So, I mean, we've all had those moments where, we're thinking of somebody and boom, the phone rings. There they are.
I think we've all had that.
We've all had that. We're connected. We're all
Sure.
connected. And if we start, so it's just a matter of attention, how much attention you're paying to that part of yourself,
Sure.
that sense. You know, if you
And I
walked
think
around with your eyes closed all the time, you wouldn't be able to see even if you weren't blind,
absolutely. And some people
right?
shut that down, right? I mean, they may have it naturally and just close it off and be like, "Oh my God, that was scary."
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think a lot of that has to do with this. I'm sorry, I'm just moving around here. I got this new gaming chair, and I feel like I'm like every time I sit here, I just want to go into song of like Rocket Man. It's like it's
Kind
really
of lean
weird
back and
feeling.
take off, right?
Yeah, it's gonna take a little time to get used to this, I think. so, so is the information coming from? Would you say? I don't know. I mean, sometimes people think there's heaven and hell. Is it coming from heaven and hell, or is it coming from energy that's in our universe? Where do you think that those processes are coming from?
Yeah. So I'm not going to call it heaven and hell, that's for sure.
Sure.
No evidence of that
And a lot of
from
people
my
do believe that.
perspective.
I mean, that's why I brought that up. Is a
Right,
lot of
right.
people do believe that. I mean, that's a belief system, right? And there's so many people that do believe. Oh my God, if we're not good or we've not committed to Jesus Christ and we're going to hell. And I just kind of think that, I mean, I want to cover that a little bit just because there's so much belief system towards that.
Mhm.
So what happens when you pass away? I mean, if you weren't a good person, then what? You know,
Yeah,
I mean, if you had different belief systems, then what happens to you, right?
right. That's why I'm a recovering Catholic.
So am I. Good girl.
um, when I talk to spirit, spirit has no judgment. Your guides, your guardian angels, whatever you want to call it, they're all there to work with you. And they told me, you're the ones doing the hard work. You're being human. You're the ones being separate. We're here to help you
Hmm.
because what you're doing is very difficult. And I was like, oh, that's cool. But that means that if you want to be a serial killer, they're going to help you.
Sure.
They're not in any judgment. If you want to be Mother Teresa, they're going to help you. But the universe is just full of information. It just, all the information available, all you have to do is ask. My guides always tell me just ask. An answer will come. It may not come right that moment, but it will come.
Sure.
And I have found that to be absolutely true. So whether it comes through guides or Jesus, it doesn't matter what you believe in. If you believe in it, it's going to be your conduit
Correct.
for
I
for
believe that.
the spiritual connection, or I call it a universal connection, because some people get wiggy around the word spiritual. but we all have it. There's a coach that I follow. He calls it your innate intelligence.
Okay. Very
It's
cool.
all the same thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe that. I believe that. So when somebody transitions or passes away, what I mean, they're not physically walking around in this other realm. I mean, they're not, we know, we see what happens to the body, right? So we know that the body physically is gone.
Mhm.
What happens to the loved one once they transition? I mean, are they, what are they giving you or telling you that is beyond this place we're in right now?
Yeah. They, when everything works well, and the spirit agrees, they go into what my guides call, they have to go through their paces, so to speak. They go into well, actually, one of my clients, her brother took me when he passed away. He took me, her uncle took me through the process, and he was going through a long tunnel, just sort of floating. It was very peaceful. It was very loving. He was able to reflect on his life without judgment. It was more like being a detective: what worked, what didn't work. What would he do differently? But there wasn't any judgment in it. It was more like just what happened, what were the consequences, that kind of thing. It was
Hmm.
very peaceful, it was very wonderful. And so at any point they can be available to us if we ask. But I've learned that you have to be careful, because they'll tend to present themselves in the same personality that they had on earth.
Okay.
So if Uncle John was a SOB, he's
It
going to be an
He
SOB
remains
on
that
the
way.
other side. You really don't want to call him in. Okay.
Okay. And does
If Aunt
spirit
Jane
sometimes,
wasn't good with money, you don't want to ask her for money advice.
so does spirit sometimes just kind of come in? I mean, could you be doing a reading and then Uncle Bob comes in and he's got this SOB attitude and he's giving you those processes through you?
Oh yeah, it happens.
Really?
It The very first time it happened to me, I was doing the psychic work, and a gal had lost her brother, and he had practically raised her, right? So all of a sudden it was like I could see now, not outside of me I couldn't see, but like an inner eye noticed that there was another energy in the room, that there was a space that was occupied by something else.
Okay.
And I tuned into it, and it was her brother. Very controlling, unbelievably controlling. That's how he raised her, right? And so I said, there's this entity here, da 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 da. I think it's your brother. So she was having a lot of problems, and she kept calling on her brother for help, but nothing was going right, because the problem was what he thought was right for her wasn't right for her. And so I really had to talk to her about, you're capable of making your own decisions. You have to learn to get comfortable and confident with that, because he can't make those decisions for you. He doesn't know your life path. He's going to do what he thinks is going to be the best for you, keep you safest,
Hmm.
you know, and not knowing really what your path is. He can't answer those questions realistically. So it took a little while for her to see that, yeah, her life was a mess, and she would have made different decisions on her own, and things would have been a lot more smooth. So you have to be careful. I never call in past loved ones to answer life questions. That's not their job. Their
Sure.
job is to be there, love you, support you, but they don't know, they don't have anything to do with your life path. And that's for your guardian angels, your guides, Jesus, however that works for you.
Sure. Whatever the process is for you, your own
Yeah.
process. So interesting. And it was really funny because I grew up at a power plant. I grew up in a ranch in the middle of nowhere at a power plant in Arizona. And it was interesting because I was very isolated. But as I moved out and I bought this first home here in Long Beach, my nephew moved in with me and we used to hear sounds all the time. We used to hear noises all the time. And one time I was flying, I used to fly for Delta Airlines and I was there for 16 and a half years. I did a trip and he was sitting, I guess he laid on the couch. He felt that somebody had opened the door and he heard the door open and close. And then he was like, "Oh, I just felt like I thought you were home." And I looked behind and there was nobody there. So he got really creeped out. But we've always heard sounds in this house. And later, as we went on, I found out that somebody had been murdered in this home because this is a Wrigley district, which was military at one time. It was part of the Navy base. And when somebody dies in a home, they keep it in the files when it's a murder. And it
Yeah,
was
they're
very
supposed
interesting.
to.
They did,
Yeah.
and it was interesting. So I went back and I did the research on it. And I found that the gentleman that lived here was part of the Navy, and his friend had come in and was having sex in the small office where I'm at right now with his girlfriend, and he found out and shot him and killed him in here.
Oh,
So we get
wow.
a lot of weird things all the time, and I just kind of have been used to it. I've been here 20 some odd years, and like even with my roommate now, there's times we just hear things, or the dogs will bark into nothingness. They'll just kind of start barking at the wall or at the ceiling, which is kind of creepy. But we're used to that, right?
Hmm.
So is that a sign of somebody coming and giving me a sign of somebody who's transitioned or something? I mean, what do they
Yeah,
do? They
that's a sign of a restless spirit.
okay.
Probably hasn't moved on altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't gone through their paces, so to speak. Um, the best thing is I tune in and I ask them what would it take for them to move on, and I'll call in like Archangel Michael, or I'll call in who they trust.
Okay.
I was trying to remove a man from somebody else's house, and he was so convinced he was going to go to hell that he wouldn't go to the light. Okay, so I was, can I call in Archangel Michael to help you? Da 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 da. And in the end, there was only one person he trusted, a childhood friend. And I said, if I call him in and he says it's okay, will you go? And he said, yeah. And that's exactly what happened. But this entity had been attacking this lady's son. It had been really, really bad.
Hmm.
But finally, he was willing to move on. So, you might talk to him. How can I help you to move on?
We're
You
kind of
know?
just cohabitating, I think.
Yeah.
It's been
But
so long, we're just kind of cohabitating, I guess.
yeah.
But so can a loved one just kind of come into place and leave you some kind of a sign, or can they, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah. They like to do that. Yeah. Ask them for a sign. A lot of people, dimes, quarters, pennies,
mhm.
feathers, birds, um, something that was special to the person that passed.
Okay.
They'll you all of a sudden, if they liked a certain bird, that would be there, butterflies, dragonflies, all kinds of stuff. But it's like, the difference. Like, you can see a butterfly and that's not your loved one. So if you pay attention in the core of you, you will know the difference. So that's a sign from mom. That is not a sign from mom.
Okay.
So, but you
So,
have to, once again, you got to tune in, put your attention on receiving something from them.
so at times, can they? I mean, you always hear these stories of like ghost stories, right? I mean, where they've opened doors, or opened cabinets, or they're walking around, they hear footsteps. Is that just a spirit that's not at rest, or is that a loved one trying to just cohabitate in your field, in your
Generally, that's
energy?
a spirit not at rest.
Okay, so so everybody pretty much who's at rest is transitioned to wherever that realm is, at that energy level, or wherever that's at. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, interesting, very interesting. So what happens if, let's say, and I think my mother had this. She used to be able to she'd have dreams of her father, because her father passed away when she was very, very young, and she'd have these dreams of him being in the casket, and she'd just wake up crying. And then one day he came out of the casket, reached out and said, "Come with me." And she's like, "I have a family, I can't." And that kind of all stopped. But she had a very intuitive side to her. I mean, you know me well. I mean, a lot of the work I do is more, it's more that intuitive sensation, that
Yeah.
behavior of learning through 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 what my work. But it was interesting because she didn't really want, I guess she didn't want to let go, and it was almost like she held on to him for a long time before that transition. Are there processes that you can do, like with her? She would wake up just crying, and she'd know that something was happening to like one of our aunts. We'd be on vacation in California, and she'd be like, "Oh my God, your aunt so and so, she's gone, she died, she's gone." And then literally, Mary, I'm telling you, literally an hour, within an hour, the phone would ring, and they'd be like, "Oh, your aunt so and so passed away."
Yeah.
um, I think for her it was not a good thing. For her it was kind of, it was almost, I think it was scary for her. And I think it was something that she didn't know she could turn on or off, because back then there wasn't a lot of talk about it, right? I
Right.
mean, it wasn't acceptable to be having those thoughts, those connections. So what
That's the
happens to
scariest
you?
part of it is not being able to talk to anybody about it. And
Hmm.
what happens is, especially if it starts happening when you're young, and if it's something scary or negative, that's what you're going to focus on. So it sounds like she never got to transition to the point of it being a sense, her sixth sense that could also bring joy, that could also bring abundance, that could also bring insight as to the people in her life, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So it is scary. I mean, it's scary when you don't know, when you don't have anybody to talk to about it, and are they going to think I'm crazy, or whatever. A lot of people have landed in the hospital, for
sure.
right something there. Um, so yeah, it's unfortunate. That's my goal. This later part of my life is teaching people, training people. They own that sixth sense belongs to us, and our society has grown in a way that kind of stripped it from us,
Absolutely.
and that's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. So it's time to get it back, and a lot of people around the world are coming together and working on that. So that's that's my goal, is to help people with that, because it's a beautiful thing to have.
Sure.
My mom and I always had a difficult relationship, and I hardly ever saw her on Mother's Day. I would spend it with my son. She lived in Palm Springs. This one Mother's Day, I all of a sudden I didn't know what to do. I didn't know. I was so confused, and I said, "Spirit, should I spend the day with my son, or should I go visit my mom?" And I heard, "Go to visit my mom. You will never go to visit your mom. You will never be sorry." And she was dead before the next Mother's Day.
Wow.
So it was, so glad I went. So glad I had that beautiful time. And we had a really nice visit. And I was so glad I had that time with her. So that's something that, you know, yeah, I probably would have made the decision to be with my son.
Sure.
But this one time it was really important to go be with my mom. And Spirit told me that. I wouldn't have made that decision on my own.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So if you have this happening to you and you don't want it, right? I mean, because I've met people, even clients of mine have been like, oh my God, I have this intuitive side to me that it's really scary, and I just kind of ignore it now, but it's still kind of, there's times where it comes up. I've had young kids that I'm working with, athletes, Olympic and junior Olympic athletes, that are just like, oh, I have this intuition. And they know it. They
Hmm.
know it at a very young age. I have 14-year-old people, 14-year-old kids tell me, oh, I have this intuition. I just kind of know things. and and that's good if they can balance it. But I think some people can't balance it, right? So if you don't want it, how do you get rid of that? How do you exchange that so you don't have it? How do you shut it off,
You
basically?
you can shut it off. It's like, if you don't want to see, you close your eyes, right? And so you just sort of, well, I talk to spirit. So when I'm doing readings, there's certain things I don't want to deal with. Okay, so I don't want to know if the person in front of me is when they're going to die. Okay, I don't want to know stuff like that unless something can be done about it. So you can cut it off, or you can streamline it. But the best thing is to find somebody who can help you with it,
Sure.
because there's always a dark side and a light side to everything, right? And most of it's right there in the gray. But it's best to get some help with it. That's the best thing to do. And then you can get stronger about what you want to receive and what you don't want to receive. You can cut it off completely, but you're cutting off major information about your life path.
Sure.
You're cutting off your ability to discern if a person is good or bad. You're cutting off a whole lot of stuff in doing that.
Okay.
So best to get some help with that.
Okay. Awesome. 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 We have a question in Facebook. I have some questions coming on YouTube also, and I don't know if you can see the YouTube side. I've never experienced that on this. I've never had like a live guest with YouTube and on the other end. Um, but we'll get them on. We will bring them on the stage if they want. I'm going to let them say yes on the comments if they want to come on stage. If not, we can just ask the question and then we can answer their question without them coming on stage.
Okay.
Um,
I
but
just need
it's
their first name.
okay. We'll do that. So once we pick some of them, we'll bring them on. Question for you is that when you have this psychic mediumship or ability to do this, do they ask you the questions, or sometimes do the answer just kind of come to you? How's that? Are you
Yeah.
sitting there and are you focused on one question, or sometimes it's just everything that's happening in their life that this I don't know what you want to call it,
Okay.
entity, this transitioned energy.
So
How
I'm gonna,
does it
I'm going to
know? And
explain that. And for
okay,
every psychic, it's different. Some psychics don't want to hear anything from you. They're just going to read the energy and what comes in. For me, my guides want people to ask questions. They want this to be a very self-empowering um, thing. So I always tell people at least write down some questions. So when I first start working with them, I tune into their energy to see, what comes up first, what kind of energy they're in, and anything their guides want to tell me. And I just take a few moments to do that. And then I go to their questions. And as they're asking their questions, often Spirit's giving me additional information to give them a broader view of the situation,
okay,
you know, because we tend to see things like this,
sure,
when really,
absolutely,
the situation's like this. But for every psychic, it's different. We all work differently. We have guides that want to do it a certain way. Um, so that is an issue sometimes when people don't understand that we're like fingerprints. Everybody's got fingerprints, but they're all
they're all
different.
different,
Then
absolutely,
psychics are the same way. So
absolutely.
that's pretty much how I do it. Um,
Okay,
but I want people to feel empowered by this. I'm not the, cross my palm with silver, read the cards. I'm a true psychic. And often people's issues is Spirit's giving me information about that person that they need to work on to get out of the issue. They need
okay.
to see it from a different perspective. They need to maybe not be so controlling over the situation, whatever it is. So a lot of the work that I do is transitional in that way.
And you used to do gallery readings. I experienced those gallery readings. It was very interesting because it seems like sometimes a spirit will come in to give a message that's on the other side of the room,
Yeah,
and,
they're
and
all over
you
the place.
you'd have to find that person. It was very interesting.
So yeah, I'll tell you. That's why I changed the way I was doing it. When I was doing it like the John Edwards and all of
Hmm.
that, I found it to be very slow, very frustrating. And I would say there's a man here, da 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 da. I don't know who that is. It's not for me. And then 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. Oh my God, that was Uncle so and so. You described him to a T. I don't know why I didn't think of it. So what I ended up doing was at the intermission, I would have people write down one question on a piece of paper, and then I would say a prayer, and then I just start pulling the pieces of paper and answering the questions. And the first time I did it, I did like 33 readings in 45 minutes.
Wow.
The information was just, I would pull it out, read the question, where's the person, boom, all the information was right there. So I got it was a lot more fun that way for
Sure.
people.
It
It
made the
you know
structure
it's
much easier for you too, right? Because I
exactly.
remember it was stuff coming out of everywhere, like right
Oh yeah,
corner, back corner, forward stage, backstage. It was crazy.
it was
And it was
crazy.
just like, it was like, and sometimes they blend together. I remember that. Like
Yeah,
sometimes somebody would have a question, they'd be in the middle of answering it. And all of a sudden it would transition into this other question, which somebody else would be like, oh my God, that's me. It'd
yeah.
be just really odd. So,
Yeah, it is. And it's kind of fun. I don't mind doing it that way, but people paid, and in reality in a gallery reading like that, they're paying for a show,
hmm,
you know. So what quality of show do I want to give? And I
sure.
don't want one that's ponderous, and you know what I mean? I'm there to help people. I am here to help you. And so I asked Spirit how I could change that so that I could get more information out to more people and
Okay.
keep the energy going and high. Now, mind you, while this is going on, there are entities coming in the room. Okay.
Sure.
So like one half of the room will have this big healing energy going around, and this half will have something, and I'm aware of all this stuff going on, you
Wow.
know. So it's like there's all kinds of things happening. And then sometimes a person would ask about their mom, but somebody else would come through, So I kind of go with the flow on that, you know.
Okay. Is it
Um,
draining on you? Are you exhausted after
I,
those?
yeah, I found that I needed a driver afterwards.
Sure,
I
I would think so.
just loopy. It would take me a long time to get grounded, which is fine. Not usually not a problem finding somebody to drive me afterwards.
That's cool. Good. Lisa, I'm going to ask you a question. Lisa's over here on the Facebook side. If you're willing to come on stage, just type yes in the chat box so that I can bring you on with us, and I'll have you on a live video with us. Or we could just run the question onto the lower fifth, and then we can have it answered. It just depends on people's comfort. I have YouTube people saying they don't want to come on stage, which is okay. It's okay. I understand that.
They're still in their jammies. Yay!
Yeah. Or they don't want to know what they want to know, right?
Right.
They may want to know what they want to know, but they don't want to know what they want
They
to know.
don't want everybody else to know what they want to know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if I don't get a message from her on here, we'll bring her question on, and we can just kind of we'll open it up. Her name is Lisa, if that helps you, and we'll go into that in a little bit. Okay. Couple last questions for you.
Yes.
So, and we'll talk about the upcoming show you're going to be on. That way, people can kind of cook onto that, which is kind of cool. I tried to give information about that last night, and I wasn't quite sure. I don't know if I did it justice.
I saw it last night. Afterwards, I saw it. So years ago, I was connected with this lady. Her name is Linda Palmer Cardone, and she has a company called Runaway Productions, and they make films, all kinds of stuff. She does a podcast. Anyway, they connected with me for a podcast. They're really into Halloween, and they had just written and filmed a movie about about a Halloween party. It was really cute. So they were using the podcast to advertise the film, basically. But they were bringing on people, all kinds of different people in the realm of Halloween, And so one of my clients hooked us up, and oh my God, it was so much fun. We did so much good work, and they'd have me back as a co-host, and just had a ball with them. So recently they decided they were going to do, I'm going to call it a docu-series. It's a documentary on everything. It's called Halloween Obsession.
Sure.
On everything having to do with Halloween and
weird.
supernatural and what.
Isn't that weird that somebody has that much interest in Halloween? I think it's fun, but
listen, their houses, it's February and their houses are still decorated for Halloween. Trust me, I love them. I love them. And so I think it's 8. It's smaller, like 1 hour documentaries.
Okay.
And the first one was about witches, modern day witches, and they actually took it to, I think, the Idlewild Film Festival and got 4 nominations. And so, they're doing these kind of piecemeal. Mine will probably be ready in a month or 2, but the whole thing won't be released until around August, September.
Okay.
So anyway, it was a trip. It was a trip, and the whole lights, camera, action, the whole, the whole 9 yards was going on. And they asked me a whole bunch of questions, kind of like what you've been doing. And then they also filmed me doing a reading for one of the camera lady.
Okay.
And so it took hours, my gosh, it's a lot, can you move that lamp 1/4 of an inch, to get the light just right? And,
sure.
Taking stuff off the walls and putting it up, and now it looks like a whole new setting, and it was pretty cool. But she said it would be about a half hour. It went on and on. I think for 2.5 hours we went, and they said it was just so fascinating. They just kept rolling.
That's cool.
Finally they had a person in front of them that could answer all these questions. What I did was I stayed tuned into spirit the whole time.
Okay.
Because I wanted to make sure I was answering the questions from spirit, right? And that's when I had a couple of experiences with being stopped. I was about to say something, like with the woman's intuition.
Okay.
So I was really glad I stayed tuned into them, because even I learned for somebody asked a question that had never been asked before. So I learned the answer at that point too. Anyway, it was really, really cool. So I'll be in one, I think, with some ghost hunters, the
Oh,
ones that
very
go through your
cool.
house and
Yeah.
stuff. And then she said other parts of the interview, might be inserted into some of the
I
other
love so
documentaries.
much of that stuff. I just,
Who doesn't?
being a kid, it's so funny, huh? Being a kid and having that intuitive side to me, I always knew there was something different. I always knew I was kind of weird.
Yeah.
I was okay with that. But it's really funny because being a kid, it was kind of like some things were scary, and I always had those like, oh my god, there's something in the corner kind of feeling.
Exactly.
And now I know what it is, but I mean, somebody on YouTube. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna ask this question because somebody on YouTube just asked. So what if the entity is negative and lives? Can it make you do things that? Can it cause you to do things that are out of your control?
Um, that's a really good question. I've heard of that happening to people, but when you do your research, that person was extremely vulnerable to begin with and
Okay.
had a belief that that could happen. If you understand that you're 100% in control of yourself, then you don't have to have that happen. And you can tell that entity, go away. I'm not having you. You don't get to be here. Um, I've had people come to see me that felt like they had something on them.
Okay.
And it's almost every single time I found an entity on somebody, they had just within the last week spent a very long night in a bar.
Okay.
So, you have a few cocktails, you're very vulnerable, you've let everything down, you're not protecting yourself. And next thing you know, you've got, something going for a ride on you.
Sure.
And by and large, that's pretty easy to take care of. That's pretty
Okay.
easy to take care of. If you're worried about it, sage yourself, take a bath in Epsom salts, things that will support your energy field and strengthen your energy field. So it's generally not going to be an issue. I think a lot of that is just TV. And
Okay.
being hypnotherapists, we're already having to battle that with our clients because they've seen all this crazy
Absolutely.
stuff on TV. It's the same thing. If you don't believe, if you understand that you're in control, then it's not going to happen. If you
Correct.
believe that the hypnotist is in control, anything can happen, right?
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
that,
Absolutely. I mean, and I think that we create our own vulnerability.
yes, we
I
do.
hate to say that, but yeah, I mean that's why some of my clients were like, "Oh my god, I didn't do this to myself." No, you did.
Yeah,
You actually did. You put yourself in that situation. You allowed yourself to open up, and now you're in the situation where you have to deal with the emotions that come with that
yeah,
connection. You know,
that's true.
so
And the experiences. But, like I said, nobody talks to us about this kind of stuff when we're little.
sure,
It's not something we're trained for. And if you grew up in a very controlled environment, then number one, you're taught you have no control over yourself to begin with, right? Only, there always is going to be some authority figure that's in control of you. So if you're brought up believing that, it's a big shift over to, whoa, I don't have to do that.
sure,
I can have control
absolutely.
over me. And maybe you don't even want to because it's fearful thinking of, all of a sudden being in control of yourself. So it takes time to build up that self-confidence. So it's the same with the spirit world.
YouTube asked, "What can they do to cleanse their home if they believe that there's a spirit lingering in their home?"
Yeah. So saging, and while you're saging, you do it with the intent. You can say it out loud. The only love and life is welcome in this home. Only love and life is welcome in this home. Um, if you don't belong here, move on. So this is what I do. I do the saging, and then I make holy water. So I'll put it in a jar. I'll put the water in a jar, and I'll pray over it, and then I'll write words: love, joy, only positive words, and I let it sit overnight, and I bless it, and I create a holy water. Right? Anybody can do this. It's your intention. Your intention to be this water represents love only. Whatever it is. So after I do the saging, then I go through with the holy water and I spray up around the corners of the ceiling and stuff like that. So it just kind of filters down. So only love is welcome here. Only love is welcome here. And usually by then, and you see yourself clearing your house. You see beautiful, loving energy going through going through the house. Nothing else is welcome here. Okay, and that's the simplest way to get started. It works really, really well. If you've got another hanger on her, then you might want to call somebody to help you or talk you through it. But in our environment.
Okay. So that our environment has a lot to do with that. Do you think that our
Yeah,
environment?
I did this for a lady who they'd been trying to sell their home for months, hadn't been able to sell the home. So I worked with her to create the holy water, and we had to like cut some cords, emotional cords, to the house from her and her husband and her kids and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then we sprayed the holy water around the door frame, and with the intention of welcome home. And she said, I left within 2 hours. A family came in and walked through, and they said, "Oh, this feels like home," and they
Wow.
bought the house, like just like that.
So that's kind of that feeling you have when you walk into somewhere where you're feeling comfortable, or maybe you feel comfortable, or so
Hmm.
that could be an entity,
Yeah, it could be an entity. It could be just the
energy.
emotional attachment, you know,
Okay.
that other people who belong to the structure have.
Okay.
But if there's an entity, you can usually know because it just doesn't feel right. You know, you
That
you
makes
get a
sense.
sense of something moving around.
Very cool. Okay. I'm gonna bring let's see what she said. Okay, so she didn't answer. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring her question on stage.
Okay.
She may still be tuning in. I don't know. Sometimes it shows me who's on, sometimes it's not. But I can see the YouTube people today, which is interesting because sometimes I see one, not the other. Sometimes you see both. So little glitches in technology, as you well know. It doesn't go.
Yes.
We're doing a live show here, so it's kind of sometimes you're just like, oh crap, that just happened, you know. So we haven't had any of that happening, which is good.
Well, and we're talking about the spiritual aspect, so all the entities are in, all the guides are in. Everybody's here, probably kind of messing with it a little bit.
Good. They need to keep the show working, going smoothly. So this is her, Lisa.
Aw.
Lisa Helsley. She says she's missing my love. He took his life May 2021. Do you have any messages for her?
Number one, sorry, very, very sorry. Um, Number two, it was a sort of a preordained thing. He came in knowing this person came in knowing that they would probably walk this path, and is they're saying they did exactly what they were supposed to do. However, still dealing with the effects of the horror of everybody else. Like this was a preordained thing for everybody involved. Um, but just this person is just generating so much love. Just like this big heart and these big waves of love are coming towards Lisa. So Lisa, just open up. He's fine. He's good. He's sorry for the pain he caused, but he is saying this was the life path he came in to experience. And it doesn't make sense to me and you, but on the other side, it does. But there's a dog, some kind of dog involved, in a dog came in this. I don't know if the dog is with him in heaven, or what we call heaven. But there's a dog and also saying hi, if that makes sense to Lisa. So, um, but sorry, he's okay, he's happy. Um, he does hover, he checks in on her, he wants her to move on, but he will always be checking in on her. Now and then, he's not with her all the time, but he does pop in. She probably knows when he does. I
Okay.
think she gets a, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Um, uh, because he's got really strong energy. He's got really strong energy.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. Really
Yeah.
sorry for your loss.
That's tough. It's a very difficult thing to understand and to deal with and to cope with.
Yeah.
You know, Lisa, I hope that helped you. Let's see. We have two more, but we're going on an hour now. So just, um, let's see here. Okay.
Yeah, I only cleared
I'm
my,
gonna,
my calendar till 10
I'm good.
o'clock, kiddo.
Okay, let's take one more. How's that? We'll take one more. And
Okay.
we'll give information for them to be able to find you again, and then
Yeah.
how they can contact you and how they can. So let me bring up the next one. All right, Sasheen. She says, "Hi. Do you have any messages for me, please?"
Your guides would like you to sit still. You sit still and contemplate. As you're contemplating your life, there's parts of it that feel like you don't have any control. But what you have to do is you sit there and say, but what do I have control over? Say, like, if you're in a bad job and everybody's horrible and you feel like you have no control over that, but you do have control over yourself and choosing to look for a different job or a different atmosphere. Um, you're you're like right in the midst of really growing into your own personal power. And so that's going to be a big factor in what you're in control of and what you're not in control. You're not in control of other people. Never will be, never can be. You can't make them change. So if they're not going to change, if you can accept that, then what about you needs to change to either accept the situation or move on. But you're well loved, well loved. You know, you're a highly intuitive, highly creative person, and you need to relax a little bit and get to know that part of you and not be afraid of that part of you because it's very powerful. Um, but always keep in mind that you have choices and that you are in control of you. And that's really what your guides want you to be focusing on right now. Hope that makes sense.
Sasheen, I hope that helped you. I hope that gave you a little bit of answers and insight on what you were asking. Um, Mary, how can people get a hold of you? Oh, got to wrap up this show.
Yeah.
This is the thing. There's some guests that I have that I could go on for hours with, and maybe we can have you back at some other time.
Sure.
So she said, "Thank you very much."
Oh, good.
Very good. So, if I want a full reading from you, how do I contact you? How do I reach out to you? How can I
Yeah.
find you? What are your upcoming shows? I know you have a podcast. Do you want to talk about that? Talk about whatever you think we can have that can get us back to you.
Okay. www.thesoulscout.net. So it's thesoulscout.net.
Okay.
I don't have anything I've got a bunch of things in the works. However, in the next month or two, I'm going to be starting like I said, I want to be teaching people. So I'm going to be starting a monthly class. It'll probably be like a subscription service. Where it'll be 2 group meetings a month online. And in the first meeting, we're going to learn something. I'm going to teach you how to be psychic. I'm going to teach you how to use the power of your mind. I'm going to teach you how to use energy therapy. I'm going to teach you all these things. So the second meeting, we will play with the concepts, answer questions. You know, it'll be like a kind of a free for all. And you'll be doing readings on other people, you know, all kinds of stuff. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. I'm also going to start a Patreon page to help me do more teaching. And so those that join the page will get wonderful discounts and all kinds of wonderful free stuff. But like I said, that's coming in the next month or two. But to have an appointment with me, to have a reading, if you go to my website, click on Make Appointment, you'll see what I'm offering, what I'm charging, when I'm available. It's really easy. You just click, boom, and then, you know, we can be together.
Cool. And will there be a way for us to be able to connect with you for the show? I mean, like, how will we know when that show
Yeah, when you go on my
airs
website, I think you should be able to join my email list.
Okay, excellent.
So those that are going to be on the Patreon they'll have first look at it. I'll actually get the whole thing before it's released. So so I definitely will be letting people know that I have that. And if you're on my Patreon, you'll get the first look at it. So, and then whatever else comes my way, you know. But yeah, I would say go on my website. That's where pretty much everything's going to be. I do have Facebook page, Soul Scouts.
Okay, awesome.
And everything will be on that too.
Okay,
Or
perfect.
Mary O'Malley Psychic Medium. That's another Facebook page I have.
You got a
So
lot going on. So if they can't contact you, that's kind of their side. Right? You got a
right,
lot of ways to get a hold of you.
right. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Instagram. I'm not on Twitter.
Okay.
I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok yet.
Yeah. And that's a
I'm
whole
working
nother
on
animal
that.
by itself. I can't even get to that. I'm working on
I'm
that,
working
but
on that.
all right, Mary. I want to thank you so much. I'm going to take you back into the green room, and then I'm going to close out this show, and I'll come right back with you. Okay? Is that all right? You got a couple of
Yes.
minutes with me?
I just want to
Okay.
say thank you to everybody. And my guides always say, just ask and use your power for good.
Awesome. Very cool, Mary. Thank you so
Thanks.
much. I appreciate you being on the show. And,
Thanks for having me, Mike. This is
oh,
awesome.
it's a pleasure. Give me 1 sec. I'll be right back with you. Okay?
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Was that not awesome? That was totally cool, wasn't it? So cool. I've known so much about psychic mediumship, and I've used psychics in the past. I just never really have, like, I guess I didn't know the nuts and bolts of it. So that was pretty cool. Those of you who are watching the replay, subscribe to this page, become a Deeper States Mind and Wellness follower. I'm working on bringing things in. Every Thursday, I'll do a different show like this in the morning. We're trying this 9 a.m. time slot, and hopefully that works out well. And we keep this 9 a.m. time slot. It works really well for the East Coast and for other countries, so that's why we kind of kept this way. I have some awesome news, and I'm going to show you guys a trailer for it. So if you are following me already on the Deeper States Mind and Wellness page, we will be doing every Monday morning at 9 a.m. I went into business as an entrepreneur. I worked for Delta Airlines for 16 and a half years. Now, I've been doing hypnotherapy and NLP as a practitioner with my own company for the past 25 years. So a lot of business owners are having a difficult time right now transitioning onto the online services, transitioning onto just my brick and mortar has been closed for so long. I'm only doing sessions through Skype or through Zoom, and I don't know how to utilize it. So I'm going to create a group, and eventually it will be a private group on Facebook where we can just chat, business owner to business owner. So if you know anybody who's a business owner who is starting a new company or is in a company, maybe you're a seasoned company, you've been in business for 20 some years like myself. We all have knowledge for each other. I think it's so important for us to all partake into sharing, and it'll be a free group just for us to be able to connect with each other, talk about social media, talk about microphones, talk about different aspects that you need. Should you be on every platform? Should you be on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat? Should you be doing everything? And we'll talk about that. But I'm so excited. I want to show you the trailer to that, and I'll come in. We'll close out the show. If any of you have friends or family that are business owners and need help, reach out to us. I'm going to show you this real quick because I'm excited about it. And then I'll close out the show, and then you guys stay tuned for next week. My next thing will be the Monday show, which will be this entrepreneur group. So if you're a business owner, join me Monday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we'll go ahead and we'll talk about things. This next week, I think what I want to talk about this coming Monday, I'm going to talk about social media and the platforms. Should you be on all of them? What can you use to be able to outreach to all your platforms, or even just one or two? All right, you guys, thank you so much. I appreciate each and every one of you. Love you guys. You guys watch the replays all the time. If you watch my replays and you think I have knowledge and information you can partake in, or you just want to have something to do Monday morning so you can actually reach out, Thursday morning, so you can reach out and just connect with spirit like we did today, or connect with your own personal self, your own personal growth, I welcome you. Take care. Thank you. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Love each other. Be kind to each other. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week.
I'm sure you will like them too. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to click the notification bell.